it, not without the whole world knowing about it. I just don't know what to do.
Hello, this is Chris McKay, your host for Discoveries in Health. What you just heard is the anguish suffered by a person with an anxiety disorder, a social anxiety disorder. And that can be anyone, your neighbor, your friend, or a member of your very own family. And you may not even know about it. It could even be you. Isn't that a terrible way to live? But a lot of people actually do. In the United States alone, 25 million people are afflicted with anxiety disorders. And there are many different kinds of anxiety disorders that we're going to be talking about them today. And you'll be absolutely amazed at what our guest today has to tell you about them. And by the time we're done, you'll have learned what causes anxiety disorders and the kind of damage they can do to your life. And you'll learn how to detect them, and most importantly, you'll learn how you can get help for them. Our guest today is a show business celebrity who suffered for 25 years from the form of anxiety known as obsessive-compulsive disorder. He is the internationally renowned Las Vegas magician and illusionist Stephen Diamond. Stephen knows anxiety because, as they say, he's been there. And he's especially well known as the developer of a program called When Anxiety Attacks, which is designed to help anyone who is suffering from these frightening ailments to regain their stability or even their sanity. Welcome, Stephen. And didn't we just see you on the Jane Pauley Show?
Well, thank you, Chris. And yes, you did see me on the Jane Pauley Show. Jane did a major piece on obsessive-compulsive anxiety disorder that has helped the country become even more aware of this particular disorder and anxiety disorders in general. Anxiety is a huge problem in this country.
Yeah, it absolutely is. You know, I just quoted the number of 25 million people afflicted with anxiety disorders, and that absolutely is astounding to me. What can you tell us about anxiety from your own experience? I mean, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, Chris. I suffered for 25 years from this anxiety disorder, and this was during the time in my life when I was developing a career in show business. But I wasn't alone. If you want to throw some numbers around, research shows that 1 in 50 American adults will have obsessive-compulsive disorder sometime during their lifetime.
Wow.
At any given time, about 3.3 million adults suffer from it. And here's the really bad news.
Okay.
It also afflicts over 1 million children. Now, that's a waker-upper, isn't it?
1 million children. Wow, it sure is. And that's what you had, right? I mean, this is what we're talking about. What was it like?
Well, OCD, let's just call it that for short, okay? People with OCD are plagued with reoccurring and distressing thoughts and obsessions that they can't control. The anxiety created by these thoughts leads to a need to perform certain rituals or routines or compulsions, as we call them.
Okay.
In my own case, I would spend countless hours doing things like cleaning everything in sight obsessively.
Really? I mean, you know, that really sounds like a terrible affliction to have to deal with those thoughts, those feelings.
Yeah, well, it is. And the worst thing about it is that the obsessions and compulsions are completely senseless and unrealistic, but you can't stop yourself.
Well, what are some of the other compulsions that people have, Stephen?
Well, there are things like repeatedly bathing or washing your hands, eating foods in a specific order.
Well, wait a minute. You know, I tend to eat my foods in a specific order. I always have, ever since I can remember from childhood. Does that mean that I have this particular form of anxiety?
We all have habits and patterns like that. It doesn't mean that we have an anxiety disorder.
Okay.
There's a lot of habitual behaviors like that we do each and every day.
Mm-hmm.
But an anxiety disorder takes control of your life, and it keeps you from functioning.
Okay.
It's a life-changing pattern of behavior, and there's a huge difference.
Well, I'm really glad you explained that. So after all that, I mean, here you are, a leading entertainer, fame and fortune, and now you're able to help people who have the very same problems you had and many other anxiety problems as well. I mean, what happened? How did you figure this out or uncover the secret?
You know, it's really not a secret.
Okay.
It's a process. As I said, I had OCD for years. I can't tell you how many doctors I went to, but the weird thing about it was that on stage, it was a good thing for me.
Really?
But off stage, it was a completely different story. So I could function as a performer, but the rest of my life was absolutely horrible.
Wow.
Finally, one day after a show, I had a complete meltdown. But a dear friend of mine got me to realize that I had to do something So bit by bit, I started to get help and came to a certain realization about my illness. I underwent something called cognitive behavior therapy, and it gradually got better.
Boy, that really sounds like a long and difficult struggle.
Well, Chris, I've been so traumatized by OCD that I swore if I could find my way out of it, that I would help other people do the same. So I developed a program called When Anxiety Attacks. I knew that very few people could afford to go through cognitive behavior therapy. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars, and it takes an incredible amount of time. So I designed a program that cuts to the chase, and I put it in simple language that everybody can understand. It's a set of 4 CDs, and it doesn't only deal with obsessive-compulsive disorder. It deals with all forms of anxiety disorders. When Anxiety Attacks is an easy-to-use, self-administered program that helps you identify an anxiety disorder, tells you what to do about it, and teaches you how to make it disappear so you can return to living a happy and productive life. And really, isn't that what it's all about?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited that you're going to help my listeners understand the other forms of anxiety disorders as well, and how you approach actually resolving them. So we'll get to all that after we take a break. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
I bought this course hoping that I could get my father to listen and maybe to deal with some of his high anxiety behaviors. And after months of prodding, he finally listened to the course. And I'm happy to say that he realized that his anxieties were out of control and he sought some help. This course was an absolute lifesaver in helping my father free himself from years of obsessions. I only hope that he'll continue to use the techniques in the long run. And thank you for providing us with the baby steps that my family needed to help save our father.
Hi, I'm Stephen Diamond, and I'm so glad that you're listening to this program. If we're talking about you or someone close to you, your anxieties and your problems coping with everyday living, I want you to know that you're not alone. Listen, I've been there. I developed a program called When Anxiety Attacks that would help you escape from the misery that you experience every day. When Anxiety Attacks is an easy-to-use, self-administered program that helps you identify an anxiety disorder. It tells you what to do about it, and it teaches you real-life skills that you can use to make it disappear so that you can return to living a happy and productive life. It's been used successfully by thousands of people all over the country. Listen, I'm here to help you. And I promise you that when you order my When Anxiety Attacks program, you will begin to see the light of a better, more fulfilling life. And you have my word on it.
To order Stephen Diamond's When Anxiety Attacks program, please call this number, 1-800-607-9285. You'll receive 4 CDs that you can listen to, understand, and learn from. And you'll get a copy of Stephen's book, OCD, A Survival Guide for a Life Among Secrets, and a bonus CD called OCD, The Missing Manual of Answers. That's 1-800-607-9285. 1-800-607-9285. Call today and get the help you need and want now.
And we're back. This is Chris McKay, your host for Discoveries in Health. And today we're talking about anxiety disorders. And an anxiety disorder nearly destroyed the life of our guest today, Stephen Diamond, who lived with a form of anxiety called obsessive-compulsive disorder, all while he was developing a very successful international career as a performer. And he told us about overcoming it and how he developed a program called When Anxiety Attacks to help others with anxiety. Stephen, forgive me for asking this, but I'm aware of other programs that are along the same lines, and they cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, first of all, Chris, there are no programs like this out there.
Okay.
I developed this course because I couldn't find anything out there that wasn't full of fluff. I wanted to develop something that people could really use and could afford. I assure you that my When Anxiety Attacks course is not.
Hello, everybody out there. Welcome to the program. I am Stephen Diamond, and today we're going to have a group of very special guests on our broadcast. I thank each and every one of you for joining us wherever you might be right now watching this broadcast. We're broadcasting on every platform, and people from all over the world are watching us. But I want to say a special hello to everyone inside of our Facebook group who's participating tonight. Thank you so much for watching. We have two really important guests on the broadcast tonight. The very first guest we're going to have is one of my coaching clients who's been with me for a while. He has a very traumatic story that we're going to talk about and kind of dissect and find out how he went from zero to hero. And we also have another guest, one of our Facebook group members. I posted in our Facebook group asking for volunteers who might want to come on the program and get a chance to talk about what's going on in their life. And our good friend JJ raised his hand and said, I would love to share my story, because he knows that somebody out there might be listening and might identify not only with what he's been through, but with how we break it down and show him the path that will help him stop his stress and anxiety. And so let's get started. I want to bring on right now one of my coaching clients. His name is Emmanuel, and I call him Manny. And Manny's going to talk to us a little bit about his story. So let's introduce Manny. There's Manny. Hi, Manny. How are you? Let's see. Oh, your mic. I can't hear you. Can I hear you now? Hi, Manny. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, Stephen.
Oh, there you are. Okay, so Manny, you've been with me for quite some time. In fact, you've been my coaching client for about 2.5 years, or how long have we been working together?
Since before the start of the pandemic, so about 2.5 years or so.
So about 2.5 years. And I want you to tell me a little bit about your situation. Tell everyone that's watching how all of this began for you. What were you like before the two of us met?
So a little information about me is I come from a big family. I'm the middle child of 13. I got 6 older brothers and 6 younger brothers, so straight down the middle. Before meeting you, Stephen, I was, coming from a big household and so many children. There's not enough room for everyone to get attention, especially from your parents. So growing up, I felt like I was alone. I didn't really have anybody. I didn't have a parental figure in my life. So I felt very broken and like I wasn't complete. I never had, a relationship with my father or my mother. So I felt very negative. I would look at life in a negative way. I would blame everybody but myself. The world is against me. This happened to me because, the world is against me. I have no luck, putting a lot of things on faith and, just releasing my anger in that way.
That's amazing. And I want to ask you also, when you first realized that you were broken, you said to me in the very beginning when we first started working together that you felt broken. Tell me a little bit about that. What do you mean by that?
Well, so I felt broken in the sense of, I would never see my parents. They were always working, with so many kids, you got, a lot of mouths to feed. So, I also helped raise my family. My mom would take me recycling. We lived off recycling for a big chunk of my life. We used to recycle on the strip here in Las Vegas. There was tough times of, eating out of the trash or, needing to recycle in order to survive, to pay rent, and I'm 6'2" since I was 10 years old, right? So growing up, it was always your older brother doesn't want to do anything. Your younger brother's, the baby, the mama's boy. So you're 6'2" at 10 years old. So you have to help, you have to go work before school, go to school, do homework, and, then repeat the cycle all over again. So I felt broken in the sense that I didn't have anybody. It was just so much was put on my plate at such a young age that I felt like this is how life was supposed to be.
It's not.
No, it is not. No.
I can tell you that is not how life is supposed to be. Now, I want you to talk to me a little bit about your family situation. You come from what I consider to be a really broken home. So, talk to
Yes.
me without identifying your family members. Just talk to me a little bit about your mom and your dad, what kind of people they are, and what kind of an environment that you grew up in. Because when you're dealing with stress and anxiety issues,
Hmm.
panic attacks, depression, anything like that, the environment that you grow up in really shapes and molds your nervous system that you're then going to rely on when you get older.
Hmm.
So I wanted to start there and tell me a little bit about your role models and the environment that you grew up in.
So growing up, I may be the middle child of 13, but I was only the second to graduate high school, right? And the whole time, growing up, my mom always like degraded us and, made everything seem the worst. She always told us, "You guys are never going to graduate high school. You guys have to work your whole life." She was so unhappy with her life and her choices that she wanted her kids to have those same choices and the same outcome that she had. So it was always, mental and verbal abuse, coming from my own mother, the woman who spit me out into this world, but we can't choose our parents. And she was always so mentally and verbally abusive that, you kind of start believing that you don't matter in life. And I may have had my father physically present in my life, but he was absent. I stopped talking to my father when I was 9, 10 years old. So at such a young age, you don't have a father, then your mother's over here degrading you and mentally, physically abusing you. So you kind of take it as tough love, or this is the way she's showing me love, which, as a grown up, as an adult now, that's the complete opposite. She was just taking her anger and frustration out on me.
Now, your mom was using her children. She had all of these kids and she was
Hmm.
using them to collect government checks, which is a part of the process of how you were surviving. Talk
Right.
to me a little bit about how you felt towards your mom and dad. Did you feel like they cared about you, or did you feel like you were just one more link in the chain?
So growing up, when we moved to Las Vegas, we were like on food stamps and, on government assistance, with so many kids. You know, I remember her telling me as a child, when they look at you dirty at the store, they give you a nasty look for using government programs. Just remember that when you're an adult, they're going to take money out of your check. And, so this is just you getting your way back of the taxes, that they're going to take out from your check. So you grow up listening to these things and you kind of grow up thinking, oh, well, the government is against me. They're over here going to take money out of my check as an adult. So, when we would get food stamps like at the beginning of the month, we would always be so excited because that's when we would have food,
Right.
so it was always, I was grateful for having the programs that we have here in the United States, but at the same time, it was kind of like, oh, it's only for a limited time because as you get older, in these food assistance programs, the monthly income that they give you is based on age. So, as a kid, we'd get like $200, $300 per kid. But as a teenager, it would go down to like 100, 150 a month. And, my mother would throw that in her face very much. Oh, you only get $150 worth of food stamps this month, so you can't say anything, be grateful for what they're giving you. And very stuff like that, that now as an adult, I go back and look, this isn't something you tell your child while growing up.
So basically, what you're saying is you grew up with a lack mentality. You came from a place where you were taught that there was never enough, there was never going to be enough, that the opportunities were not going to present themselves to you. There was never any encouragement of how you would get from point A to point B in your life or anything of that nature. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes, that's very true. My mom grew up, as an illegal person in the United States. She grew up, with hard labor, cleaning restaurants at night. That's the way she has made her living here. She's been here over 35 years. So, that's how she made her living. So, she would always throw in our face that, you can only get by in life by killing yourself at work, what she was doing, killing yourself at work, working 7 days a week, only, her telling us, I can get by on 3 hours of sleep, so everybody needs to get by on 3 hours of sleep. And I don't know about you, Stephen, but I cannot survive or have a full day with only 3 hours of sleep. It sounds crazy. We need our sleep as, human beings. But, it was very much forcing us to live the life that she lived in order to make herself feel better.
So tell me a little bit about once you figured out that you were in a bad situation, you began thinking about how to pull yourself out. Now let's
Right.
flash forward a little bit, and you met me, and we started talking, and I knew as soon as I met you that I could help you change your life. So talk to me a little bit about, so now that we know who you were and the mentality that you were in, talk to me
Mhm.
about when you first started my coaching program, and tell me what was going through your mind and the changes that began to take place.
So when we first met, I had already left home. I had left home like 6 months ago, and I was staying with a friend who I thought was family to me. Turns out they weren't. They were just using me for money. You know, I was paying their rent, buying their food, paying their bills. I was just a cash cow sleeping on the couch. So when we first met, I had left their environment. And one of the first things that, I noticed when I first met you was the peace and quiet that was available once you start learning the skills that you provided. So, growing up with so many kids and so many children, it's hard to get, peace and quiet. But, at some
You're
point
talking
after,
about the peace and quiet in your mind, right?
right, yeah, exactly.
Because
So,
prior to that, your mind is filled with chaos because that is how you have been conditioned since birth, because you're living in a house with 13 other kids.
right. So, that peace and quiet in my mind at some point became the loudest thing I could hear, right? There wasn't children crying or, people screaming how I grew up, but, it was just having that time to myself and realize and thinking, a lot of what I grew up with and the way I grew up, at some point that silence became the loudest thing I could hear. So with, having that silence and and using the skills that, we've learned in this program, one of the things that I first picked up was I like to journal. Right? I've been journaling since we started this 2 years, 2.5 years ago, and I'm on my fourth journal. I'm coming close to an end. I only have like 20 pages or so left to my journal that I'm currently writing in. But journaling was one of the first things that I was able to pour my heart and my emotion into, and it was kind of like an scapegoat that I could, when I write, everything stops. Time is, I'm in the moment expressing myself and being able to write whatever I am feeling. And even still to this day, as a writer, sometimes, you're writing and you come across writer's block where I can either be writing for a long period of time, or I can go a whole month without writing. And right now, I think today I complete 53 days of consecutive writing. Been journaling since the 4th of July, so that's something pretty cool that I love.
And journaling is just one of the many things that
Mhm.
you learn in the coaching program. But talk to me a little bit about why it's so important, because it helps you to see your thought process, doesn't it?
Right. So, the funny thing about journaling is that, when I first started, it was very angry. I was very angry at the world. I was just starting the program. I was, barely starting to condition my brain. So, I was still having the same process that I had at home because, I didn't know any better. I was just using what I knew, the tools that I had. So,
Right.
when my first journal entries, they were very negative and toxic. I was angry at my roommate, or I was angry at my brother, or I was angry at my mother because she didn't tell me congratulations for graduating high school, right? It was very much like releasing everything negative that was going on in my life and putting it on paper. But as I journaled and, I can see like I can see the evolution now because, when I first started journaling, it was all negative. And then like about like 2, 3 months in, I can go back and look at my journal entries and, I can see that I start writing down how I'm feeling, like what mood I'm in, what emotion am I feeling as I start this journal entry, or what emotion am I feeling as I'm ending this journal entry, or even through the handwriting. If I was having a great day, the handwriting is neat and organized. But if I'm frustrated while journaling, I can tell by the handwriting, by just looking at it, oh, I wasn't in a great headspace that day.
And Manny, you know something, I'm so proud of you because you now have the skill set in your form of thinking that you didn't have when you first started my program, because
Mm.
now you have the ability to look at what you're writing and analyze it in a way intellectually that you didn't have prior to taking this course. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. When I was writing these first journal entries, I didn't have the thinking skills or the tools that I have now. When I first started writing, I was writing to let my emotion out or whatever I was feeling, just releasing it. But now when I write, it's like I'm writing with purpose. One thing that I picked up, even still through the program and going back and still like, reviewing what I've learned, you never stop learning as an adult. You always have to keep growing. But even going now, still using the program till this day, one thing that I discovered about myself is I like poetry. Like poems is one way that I'm able to express every emotion that I am feeling. And when I first started journaling, that I didn't, I hadn't discovered that I love writing poetry. It's, you're growing and learning so much every day. You're discovering new things about yourself that, poetry was another thing that I picked up that, I love. And, I started writing poems this year in March, and, 6 months later, I can go back from my first poem to where I am now. And it's like, I can just feel it in my bones that this is something that I love and that I truly cherish. And that, it's just that feeling, how we all discover what we love or what we want to do in life. And it's like one thing that I know I want to do in life is just continue to write and never stop writing because I capture a moment in time, and that's forever.
So now I want to talk about how you've changed. You've been through the program for some time. We have regular coaching sessions, and
Hmm.
I help you solve the issues that are going on in your daily life, whatever situations you have. And you mentioned that you graduated from high school, but what you didn't tell everyone is that that was one of your goals when you came into my program, and you
Yes.
achieved that goal as a result of being in this program. Is that not true?
Yeah, so I graduated high school when when we started going through your program. Prior to going through your program, I didn't have my high school diploma. I
Right.
mean, I had enough credits to graduate high school, but I was missing two, so I wasn't able to walk with my class. And I still like I went through high school all 4 years, right? So prior to having me doing meeting you or taking the program, one way I could tell my mind was like trying to deal with all of that was having nightmares. I had nightmares of my teachers like looking down upon me for not graduating. And I had this my one of my favorite teachers, my math teacher. In one of my dreams, she would just look at me with disappointment and, for not graduating or having my diploma. So when we started taking the program, kind of I set goals for myself, right? That I wanted to achieve with this program. And one of the goals that I wrote down was getting my high school diploma. And I mean, it was only two classes that I was missing, but at the same time, it felt growing up listening to my mother telling me I was never going to graduate high school, it kind of put this thought in my head that, oh, you're never going to be good enough to even graduate high school, right? So after taking this program, one thing that I knew I had to do was get my high school diploma. And when I got it's actually 2 years next month on the 21st that I got my high school diploma. That, when I got my high school diploma, I knew that I had worked for it myself, that I took it upon myself to make this happen. And at the end of the day, no one was going to be able to take that away from me because I put in the hard work. I did it myself.
You
And,
did.
you know,
You did.
yeah.
And not only did you graduate from high school, but you got a corporate job that pays more than most people make.
Hmm.
You paid for your own vacation to Hawaii, which was a goal of
Yes.
yours. No
Right.
one paid a penny of that. You did that. You earned that money yourself, and you took that vacation yourself. None of that would have happened had you not been in this program. And I want to mention also that you've learned in this process how to solve problems. You've learned a whole skill set, not only how to achieve your goals, you've learned how to set your goals, you've learned how to
Hmm.
manage your time, and you've learned how to achieve those goals. But you've also learned how to break problems down and how to
Hmm.
solve problems. Talk to me just a little bit about that.
So, as human beings and individuals, we face problems every day. If we're stuck in traffic, we kind of start getting frustrated. And especially, I don't know about you, if whenever you're running late, everything just seems to pile on another. It's like you're running late to work, and then you happen to catch every red light, on your way to work, and you start feeling upset. And then, oh, I forgot my work boots, or I forgot, my clocking card, and it's like everything starts piling on. And old me would get frustrated. Even, I would remember, when I was running late to work, I would just give up. I would go into work with a negative mindset and say, it's going to be a negative day. I'm going to give up. Who cares what happens? If and then I would walk into an environment that was, hectic. And it was like I was kind of painting my own reality, right? I was so negative and so toxic. I was attracting everything negative into my life. I was, getting drunk during work, after work, before work, you know, smoking marijuana at being underage, and, just attracting all these negative aspects of myself prior to work, during work. And, it just felt very toxic. But now, having the skills that I have, I wake up every morning and, I set my intention for the day. And that has been one of the greatest things like you can possibly do. When you first wake up, your mind is so, no thoughts are coming to you yet. You have that time for yourself, like the first 5 minutes or so. What I like to do is I like to tell myself, good morning, I love you, and my name, right? Because in order to have a great day, to have a great life, you have to love yourself as a person. Because if you don't love yourself as a person, you do all of these, actions within yourself, like taking alcohol, taking drugs, escape routes that you typically use in
Right.
order to avoid the trauma or avoid what you're going through. But now, knowing the skills that I have, I wake up every morning and I love myself. And that has been one of the greatest things that I have, learned in this program, is being able to love yourself and putting yourself first. Because at the end of the day, if you don't love yourself, you can't move, you can't prosper, you can't achieve anything in this world, in this
It all
life.
starts right there. I mean, really and truly, it all starts right there. You have to, what's the very first thing I teach you in the course? Do you remember what the very first thing is? Lesson number one?
Yeah, my mind's a little blank right now, but I remember,
I
one
didn't mean
thing
to
that
put you on the spot, but do you remember in the very first lesson, we learn how to forgive ourselves?
yes, we learn how to, yeah, that's one thing, that's, one of the most important things, prior to everything happening before we met, I put a lot of blame on myself. I was only 19 years old. You're still a child at 19, even at 21. I'm a young adult now, but even at 18, 19 years old, you're still a child, and you only know one way of life coming from the home you grew up in. And we don't have some of us don't have the perfect home. We don't have the perfect family with the picket fence and the perfect household. Some of us deal with stuff when we go home, and one thing that I learned was being able to forgive myself. And despite having bad parents, now If you would have told me 2 years ago when I first started taking your course, would I be able to forgive my parents for the way they raised me? Absolutely not. I, hate is a strong word. I don't like to use the word hate anymore. Even when I catch myself, when I say the word hate, I'm like, no, hate is a strong word. You can not like someone or despise someone, which is completely different than the word hate. But 2.5 years later, I'm able to forgive my mom for the way, she raised us. I'm able to forgive my dad for, you know, physically being there, but being mentally absent from my life, and being able to look back in these past 2.5 years, you would have told me at the beginning, one day you're going to be able to forgive your mom for everything she's done. I would have straight up laughed in your face and been like, no, I'm gonna, hate my mom until the day I die. And I remember, I think we had that conversation one time where I was like, no, I will never be able to forgive my mom for what she did. And I would take it very personal. But through the skills that I've learned through your program is you can learn to forgive but not forget. You can forgive them for what they did, but at the same time, I'm able to move forward and continue to move on in my life, and not letting the way I grew up affect me or determine who I am meant to be.
Wow, you've come such a long way. I'm so proud of you, Manny. You started literally at zero. You didn't know who you were, you didn't know what you were. And now you've learned to forgive not only yourself, but you've learned to forgive the people who have hurt you. And
Hmm.
that's a tremendous thing in your life, because only once you get past that can you begin to learn to love yourself and then rebuild your life from the ground up. And that's
Hmm.
literally what we've done together. I've kind of held your hand the whole way through because I knew you were one of the ones that was worth saving. I knew that you had the ability to achieve these things, achieve great things. And you just needed to know how to rewire your brain so
Hmm.
that you could think in a different way. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. You know what I'm going to say. What am I going to say, Manny?
um
Better.
Hey, better thinking equals better results.
There you go.
And another one that I remember
Yep.
is take bold action and unforeseen forces will come to your aid. And
That I've
that,
lived my life by that. And if
yes.
I don't have any tattoos, but I've always said if I ever
Mhm.
got a tattoo, it would be this one. And it's a phrase. He's talking about a quote, and I don't know where the quote came from. I heard it very early in my life. I was probably about 15 years old when a mentor of mine told me this quote. But it says, "Take bold action, and unseen forces will come to your aid." And I have used this concept my entire life, and it's taken me around the world many, many times. Because when you take that bold action, when you just have that faith in yourself, and you have the courage to be able to take that bold action, then doorways will open, people will come into your lives, and you will begin to see all of this new stuff happening, these new paths, these new opportunities that you can take in your life. And oftentimes with my coaching clients, when I find people getting stuck and they don't know what to do, they don't know how to fix being stuck, what I also find is that those people begin to they begin to learn the process of weeding out the noise and only focusing on what really is going to make a big, big difference in their life. Now, for anyone that's interested in my coaching program, just go to stephendiamond.com and book your free 30-minute consultations. Pick up that phone, call me, and I will help you get to where you want to go. No matter what kind of problem or stress or a situation that you're in, trust me, over the last 15 years, I've heard and seen it all. We're going to have a guest on in a couple weeks that was getting married to a beautiful guy who unfortunately was diagnosed with leukemia and died. And I coached her through that whole process. She's going to tell that story, and it's quite remarkable. So stay tuned for that. But if you would like to find out more information about my program and how it can change your life, just go to stephendiamond.com and click on the link to book your free 30-minute consultation and call me. I will get on the phone with you and we'll figure this out together. Manny, it has been such a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you for sharing your story. It's touched me, has touched so many other people. We'll be right back with one of our Facebook group members who's going to talk about his situation, and we're going to dig in deep and find out how we can help him. We'll be right back right after this.
You know, the world can be a very stressful place right now. Stress and anxiety are tough to handle without the right skills and support system. COVID lockdown feels so suffocating, but there is hope. Hello, I'm Stephen Diamond, and you might have seen me on TV teaching people how to rewire their brains using evidence-based neuroscience to overcome things like anxiety, panic attacks, fear, worry, and even shyness. Now, there are no pills, only life-changing skills. Don't you wish that you had a loving and supportive community of like-minded people to help you through the rain? Check out lifeskillsmasterclass.com today. You don't have to do this alone. And if you join today, I'll let you in for just $1. Why only $1? It shows your commitment and proves that you're serious about changing your life. So stop suffering and learn what you've been missing, because better thinking equals better results. Join lifeskillsmasterclass.com today.
Okay, everyone, we're back, and I'm about to bring on one of our Facebook group members. If you don't know about our Facebook group, I'm going to tell you all about it. I have a private, exclusive Facebook group for people who want to change their lives, people who are interested in making a difference in the world, and people who want to help other people. I'm building a loving community of supportive people who are in there to uplift each other, support each other, and help us get from point A to point B in our lives. And this is a young man in our group. His name is JJ. I'm going to bring him on right now so everyone can see him. Hi, JJ. How are you?
I'm well, Stephen. How are you?
Good. Thanks for being on the program. So
Thank
tell
you.
us a little bit about you, your situation, and first tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into your situation.
Okay, so the backstory is I like you, have been out front. I started out as a nightclub DJ, then a mix show DJ for the radio station. Then somebody decided I had a nice voice and decided I needed to be on the air. So my stress and anxiety, when I was out there, I was on, but as soon as I left and I got home, that's when other things started to come into play. And then to make matters even more complicated, I had an accident, and at the age of 48, I spent 2.5 years in a skilled nursing facility. So I'm in my first year out of that place, and 48 years old, surrounded by, 98% elderly people, and then having to deal with that during COVID. Nobody comes in, nobody goes out. It's played some tricks on my mind.
I can believe that. I mean, anyone who's dealing with an accident like that, and I can relate to your story because we're both entertainers. We both come from that world. And the same thing, what you just said is very true with my story as well, which is when you were performing, when you were out there doing your thing, you were on and nothing else mattered. But when you walked off that stage, your whole world collapses, because then your mind has to deal with your emotions. And that is a really scary place to be sometimes. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, for me, being out in front performing was like being an actor or an actress. I got to be somebody else for a brief period in time. But like you said, once you come off stage, reality kind of just goes, hello.
And talk to me about the internal dialogue inside of your mind. what was it that the loop, the mind chatter loop that was going on in your head? Are you telling yourself, I hate myself, I don't belong, I don't deserve, was that kind of the mind loop that was going on in your head?
Yeah, it was almost like two different personalities almost.
Yep.
Here I am, the performer, as one person, but then here I am at home. And, for me, at that point in time when everything kind of, it's like worlds colliding. I had just become a brand new father, and I'm like, okay, I'm home. I'm going to go be the best dad I can be.
Mm-hmm. And did you find yourself struggling? I'm sorry, I lost you. What was the last thing you said?
I said, but my mind had to be in the right place. The intent was there.
Right.
The question is, was I always the most mindfulness person?
Right. And that's a big deal because you have another life that's here in the world that you're responsible for. And you have every intention of doing the right thing. And you have every intention of wanting to be there for your child as the greatest dad in the world. But at the same time, you're battling this war inside of your mind that no one else but you can hear, see, or feel. Can you relate to that?
Exactly. You nailed it.
That's very common. I mean, I've coached thousands of people and I will hear that every single time from people. And that's, by the way, that's how you know you need help. When you get to that point, when you get to the point in your world, in your progression of the disorder, that you can no longer handle the responsibilities that are in front of you, that's when you need help figuring things out. And I only say that because I want the people watching and listening to understand that that's a red flag for you personally. That's how you can figure that out. So tell me a little bit about your...
I agree with you 100%. And then to exacerbate issues, I already had that internal conflict going on. So now, we fast forward. I'm in a nursing home. My family's spread out all over this country. Nobody was coming to visit my rear end in good old Columbus, Ohio. That was few and far between. And then you add COVID into the mix. I've been out about a year and 3 months now. So some ways, somehow, I don't know. I developed like a social anxiety disorder. I become a shut-in. I barely leave.
So a lot of people watching this right now can relate to that. Agoraphobia is something that we all deal with. I've dealt with it in my life. People ask me all the time, how can you stand on stage and perform in front of thousands of people, but yet you're afraid to come to my party and there's only going to be 10 people there and you won't even leave the house to come to my party? That's because people don't understand this disorder, and they don't understand that you are powerless to disobey what your brain is telling you when you are in the midst of that kind of disorder. And millions of people are living like that every single day. I want to talk a little bit more about your dialogue that goes inside of your head. Describe to me who you were telling yourself you were at that time.
It depends on what it was I was doing, some days, some hours, I was the entertainer. Some days, when I'm out at the pool or the park or whatever with my daughter, I'm super dad. Then rarely was there me.
Yeah. One of our Facebook users is commenting that no doubt millions of people are living this way, and it's absolutely true. Another one says lots of us are. And this is so true. It really, really is true. Talk to me a little bit about your coping mechanisms. When we get into these states, we're confused, we're anxious, we're stressed out, we don't know what to do with ourselves. And so whenever someone gets to that brick wall, I call it, where they don't know what to do, guess what we do? Nothing. Our brains are hardwired to default to nothing. So talk to me. I'm sure you can relate. You're nodding your head yes. So
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. What did you do to cope with your inability to take action because you didn't know what to do?
I had to learn to be more mindful of myself, my surroundings, the people that were around me when there were actually people around me. You know, I have what I like to call an overactive brain. There's always some type of internal conversation going on. Even when you were talking, I was still having an internal conversation about what I was going to say next.
Right.
And, anybody that's been through that knows that can lead to some really restless and sleepless nights because there's always this internal conversation. So I still work on this. I struggle with this on a regular basis, trying to bring down that internal conversation and put it someplace, different. Like, well, what's going on right now? Why am I not listening to this TV show or this movie or, the radio station or whatever it is I'm doing? Why am I not focusing on that? And then I had to take things a different step further. Like, especially when I got out of the skilled nursing facility, I start every day with gratitude. It's just the little things, things that I had taken for granted. So I sit there every day. I got a roof over my head, a bed to sleep in, got some decent clothes, shoes, food in the fridge, the freezer, the pantry. I got nothing to complain about because there's plenty of people out there that don't have that. That's how I start my day.
In that attitude of gratitude. Living with that attitude of gratitude makes all the difference, but it's just a start because if you don't have the skill set, I always say skills, not pills, because the pill bottle can go empty. You can run out of your prescription. All of those kind of things can happen. And I'm not anti-medication. I'm not a doctor. I don't give medical advice. But what I do is I understand, because I used to be on all the medication. JJ, I took everything from Lexapro to Zoloft to lithium. I've been on all of it. And today I'm medication free. And the reason is because I have the skill set now to manage what happens in my life. And that's what makes all the difference in the world. What I want to ask you is, how did you manage when you didn't know where to turn, you didn't know what to do? How did you learn to manage the chaos?
I didn't.
That's what I was looking for there.
Yeah, the answer is I didn't. I was taking care of myself physically. I wasn't taking care of myself mentally.
Right.
And I think that's something that a lot of people do. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. But if that's something, there is no health without mental health.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, there isn't. And we all have to guard our mental health. We all have to learn to protect our energy. And we have to learn to protect both the energy we give and receive. We have to learn to guard our thoughts. We have to learn to create an environment of self-love in a healthy way. I'm not talking about, a lot of times when I say self-love, people think it's a narcissistic type way. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about learning how to really connect with the person that you authentically are on the inside, and also learning the skill set to allow that person to come forth, because it's only when you learn to live an authentic lifestyle, an authentic way of living for you, that you can lead yourself to happiness. Because if the outside person and the inside person are not congruent, you're not going to be happy. It's only when you find that inner person and the outward person that we project. I call it our social mask, the social mask that we project to the whole world. That's got to be the same as the person who is seeing through these eyes. And
Yeah.
if the seer and the seen are not congruently aligned, it's impossible for you to find the peace and happiness that you're looking for. Does that make sense to you?
Perfect sense. It's like we're all actors. We only show people what we choose to show them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Back to your point, if we can all find a way to get in touch with our authentic selves and push that out to the front, but it's not an easy thing to do. Like anything else in life, unless you're like a 1% phenomenon, you crawl, you walk, you run.
That's right. That's right. You have no choice. And sometimes I find a lot in my coaching clients, the universe will drop little pebbles on your head to get you to pay attention. But if you ignore that little pebble, a rock is coming and it's going to hit you on the head a little bit harder. And if you ignore that rock, a boulder is going to fall out of the sky and land on you and completely stop your life. And that's what happened to me in 2017. I was in a life-changing accident and I ended up in the hospital for months, laying in a bed. I actually physically left my body at one point, and I died 3 times during that whole process. My body was doing everything it could to give up. It wanted to check out, and that is also clear to me. But I still had purpose. I still had a reason to be here, and I knew that, and that is what kept me hanging on. And I think that when you know what your purpose is, when you get to that point in your journey where you understand why you're here, it helps you overcome any challenge that you might have in your life. And when I first created this course back in 2003, the Life Skills Masterclass course, which originally was called When Anxiety Attacks, I rebranded it during the pandemic because no one could spell anxiety. So when we changed it to Life Skills Masterclass, back in 2003, I learned in therapy, when I was dealing with my own issues, a series of skills that I realized if people only knew how to use these skills, it could change everyone's life like it did mine. And so I refined these skills over the years, and I developed a step-by-step process of being able to transform yourself from the inside out. And it's nothing magical. It's nothing scary. It's nothing confusing or hard to do. It's all very simple, easy skills that you can learn, but it's in a logical, linear process that will lead you from point A of starting out zero, just like Manny, the guest that we had on before you. He started out in the worst possible situation. He was broke, homeless. His family kicked him out of his house when he was no longer useful to him. And he was an 18-year-old boy on the streets of Las Vegas, not knowing where to turn in his life. All he needed was the right skill set in his tool chest. And he was able to pull himself out of that. And today he's in complete control of his life. And he has found true internal happiness because he has the skill set to make himself happy. And he doesn't have to depend on anyone. He doesn't need to depend on a partner, a lover. He doesn't need to depend on parents, on relatives or family members or anything like that. He's learned how to support himself, both physically, emotionally, and you can do the same thing. JJ, you've been so incredible sharing your story with us. I'm going to give you, as a gift, a free admission into my Life Skills Masterclass course, We're going to set you up with your own username, login, and password, give that to you for free, and let you
Sure.
take the course because it's going to help you. I know that this course will really, truly help you if you will dedicate just 30 minutes a week. That's all it takes. The classes are emailed to you, one per week. And the reason that I've done that, instead of giving you all the course up front, what I learned is over the years that people who are stressed out and anxious have a very short attention span. And
Yeah.
so these classes are 30-minute classes or less that are designed to teach you simple concepts and then give you a week to allow you to implement those concepts into your life. And before we go, we're going to come back, stay right where you are, but I want to show you how the class works, and I want to show you a little bit about just what this course that I've dedicated my entire life to can do, not just for you, but for anyone out there watching right now.
Meet Ken. Ken worked in a big office for a big company, and he was not happy. Ken's life consisted of work, home, sleep, work, home, sleep. This felt like it was never ending. He felt chained to his 9-to-5 job and mundane life, but he was too scared of failure to get out there and do anything about it. Ken was depressed, stressed, and had to find a solution. These feelings are more common than you think in today's world. It is very easy to feel trapped, and the longer you live with the fear of changing your path, the harder it becomes. This fear and unhappiness does not have to be job related. It could be anything that is getting you down and ultimately making you unhappy. From relationship worries and job troubles to shyness and insecurities, this applies to anyone wanting to make a change in their life. Ken decided it was time to find that much needed change. This is when he came across Life Skills Masterclass. Life Skills Masterclass will teach you how to break free from those chains and quickly regain control of your life. Ken wanted more information, so he entered his name and email address right here on this page and got the free Deep Relaxation audio CD to help him sleep at night and get his mind back on track. Once Ken joined Life Skills Masterclass, he soon found it enhanced his ability to focus, he improved his memory, and reduced his stress and worry. Ken quickly became a much happier guy, so good things started happening again. If you are like Ken and feel stuck and trapped in a life you are not happy with, then take action and order your free CD today. Because when you change the way you think, your life will change too. Because better thinking equals better results.
And we're back. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight. And there's a couple things I want to tell you before we go. We're going to get back to JJ in just a second. But if you haven't joined our Facebook group, please check it out. We are developing a group of loving, supporting people who really care about each other. I do free teachings in the group. I post all kinds of incredibly valuable content that will teach you how to live a better life. And that's so important. Before we go, I want to ask JJ a couple questions here. JJ, tell me a little bit about what your situation is today. How are you doing? What's happening with you inside your mind? Where's your life at? And what would you like to fix?
Okay, so like I deal with physical issues because of the back problems, still walking is difficult for me, which does lead to some anxiety and, depression as well, because there's days when it's too difficult to move, and that's not going to put you in a bad mood. I don't know what else will. So, I need to work on that. I need to work on, I need to get better at mindfulness. And, I need to quiet these internal conversations. They get a little ridiculous and loud.
If you could achieve one goal in your life, what is that goal that you really want to get to? I
need financial stability in my life. I
And
mean,
that's difficult in the physical situation that you're in, correct?
yeah, moving around is not an easy thing for me. I mean, so, well, I may as well just I put everything else up there. I've got a social security case coming up, and I have a bunch of people trying to talk me out of that. You're 51. I'm like, yeah, well, sitting for long periods of time and standing for long periods of time hurts.
It does.
So,
It
I
really, really does.
I'm working on my drawing lines with people, boundaries, and they're not walking in my shoes. So if they're not walking,
Yep. And I always tell people, ignore the opinions. Ignore opinions. When people start telling you, I hear it's mind over matter. Oh, will you just stop thinking that way and just think that it doesn't work like that. Unless you're living in my head, you don't understand.
no, I agree with you. Those are the exact words verbatim that I've used with many people many a times, more than I ever wanted to.
Yeah, because they don't understand. This is not something we can always control. I work with a lot of vets, a lot of ex-military people who have they have post-traumatic stress disorder from being in different wars and stuff like that. And I can tell you that they struggle with this a lot because they feel like that unless you're in the military, you don't understand. And I kind of think that way too. Unless you've been inside of my head, you don't understand. And what I've learned over the years is that though the journey may be different for each and every one of us, the process of healing is the same. And we can definitely help you. We're going to keep in touch with you, JJ. I think that you have a lot to offer this world. I think that you have a lot. It's obvious you're a very, very intelligent guy. There's a lot to you. That spark that you've lost is still there. You can learn to reconnect with that spark. It hasn't gone anywhere. You're still you. You're still everything that you've always wanted to be. You're still everything that you're destined to be. What is different is that you have a series of protective barriers that you've built up over the years to guard yourself, to protect yourself, to keep yourself sane. And once you show your brain the path to peace and relaxation, tranquility and calm, you will begin to see that your thinking changes. And when your thinking changes, your decision-making changes. And when your decision-making changes, you begin to see better results in your life. It's not a magic pill. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a process. It's a journey.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Stephen. Hello.